Coming up on Backchecking the Bolts.
You know, what a firing really does to a player, to a team, to a system. But it's hard to look at that. And we see it so often in hockey. We see the head coaching bumps. This was a GM bump. It's what it is. Clearly there was a breath of fresh air. GM Jarmo Kekalainen came in notoriously and basically told all the players, there's not a single one of you that isn't expendable. I think that lit a fire. And I think overall they really began to play for their jobs a little bit. Once they got the ball rolling, then it just snowballed, and you pile that with some good goaltending and a healthy lineup finally, and you have yourself the most historic stretch in 30 years.
Welcome to Backchecking the Bolts. Backchecking the Bolts is your cup of coffee to get you the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Join host Jason Linkus and the managing editor of Raw Charge, Justin Godfrey, as they break down the Lightning's most recent games and go beyond the highlights, telling you what the box scores didn't. It's time to drop the puck.
It's the Backchecking the Bolts podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Jason Linkus, and as always, I am joined by the managing editor of Raw Charge. You can read him each and every day at www.rawcharge.com. It's Justin Godfrey. Justin, well, we don't have the playoffs to talk about, at least for the Lightning, but how you been?
Pretty good, It's starting to feel a little refreshed. It's nice getting sleep again at night, not having to stay up late watching overtime hockey games, as exciting as they are. But yeah, kind of getting back to a regular schedule here. Could go outside, enjoy the Florida sunshine a little bit. Yeah, starting to gravitate back towards writing about hockey, starting to look ahead to next year. Keeping a side eye on the playoffs as it is, that's enjoying the fact that Montreal's continuing to win because it makes the Lightning look better. You don't want to be the team that loses to the team that gets blown out in the next round. Sorry, Pittsburgh. But yeah, it's
hey, I told you Philadelphia was in for they were in for
exactly.
a drubbing. I thought they might get a game.
I thought Vladar would steal at least one game, but no, it was Carolina wasn't messing around. So it's kind of been an interesting second round. It hasn't been as competitive. Like even the Minnesota Colorado series, like the games themselves have been kind of blowouts. I think the big surprise right now is probably Anaheim.
If you've been able to stay up for those games, those have been really good games.
Yeah. And now Vegas, they don't have Mark Stone going, so it's basically the Anaheim call right now. So the little Rocky in the NHL right now. But yeah, it's been an interesting playoff. I think it's going to set up for some really nice conference finals once we get there. Carolina's basically getting a 2-week vacation before they're going to have to play again. So we'll see how that affects them.
I think that could be a negative effect on Carolina. 2 weeks off in a sport that is based on rhythm, they're going to be rusty. They just are.
Yeah.
And
they're going to,
if this series goes 6 or 7 games, you're right. They're looking at possibly 2 full calendar weeks without playing a game.
Yeah, and they're going to, whoever they face, Montreal or Buffalo, you're going to have 2 teams, one of those 2 teams is going to come off a really good win, in the series. And it's not like Carolina is going to have a chance to ease their way into the series. They're going to go up against a team that's hot, ready to play. Those Buffalo-Montreal games have been really quick. So it's going to be an interesting Eastern Conference final. So we'll see how Carolina does, especially with their questionable goaltending as it is. Frederik Andersen's played well so far, but with 2 weeks off, 10 days off or whatever he's going to have, is he going to still have the magic he's had? So we'll cross that river once we get there, but we'll see how the rest of the second round plays out.
On today's podcast, we are going to talk about the NHL awards. There's a number of Lightning members who are finalists for NHL awards, and we are going to talk with Jonah Ahrens from the Sabres Report Podcast. Jonah is going to give us the latest and greatest on the Buffalo Sabres as they try to come back against those Montreal Canadiens that Justin was talking about. We're going to talk with Jonah a little bit more in detail about that in our interview that we did this morning. But Justin, let's start with the NHL awards. The first award is the Hart Memorial Trophy for the most valuable player. The finalists are Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid. Right now, McDavid is a minus 158 betting favorite. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he kind of snuck in there at the end. the way he played out over the last, I would say, 10 games or so, I think he kind of clinched the award. He kind of dragged Edmonton into the postseason, if you will, just with some of the things they were dealing with, like their goaltending situation, the fact that they were still able to make it. And McDavid played really well down the stretch, whereas, Kucherov kind of, he played well. It was kind of like the playoffs. He played well, but he didn't play up to his usual standards. So I think, heading into April, I had Kucherov as a front runner. I think McDavid did enough to steal it. Out of the three, McKinnon probably had the most consistent season, but I don't think he had the highs or lows that McDavid or Kucherov had. So, yeah, I'm going to go with probably McDavid picks up another one. It's like 6 for him now, or 5 or
I
something.
think
like
that'll be 5, but McKinnon
Yeah.
was the favorite, the betting favorite for most of the year. It wasn't until the very end his point total started to fall. Kucherov missed a couple of those games in April, which really hurt his chances of winning the point scoring race as well. But you're right, McDavid really carried Edmonton, almost carried them to a division title. Justin, Andre Vasilevsky looks like the runaway favorite for the Vezina Trophy. His odds are minus 2,200. So basically, you have to bet $2,200 to win 100. The other two are Ilya Sorokin and Jeremy Swayman. Those two are basically on The Price is Right. They're contestants not appearing on stage.
That's right.
I think Vassy better have a speech ready, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to take their consolation prizes and go home. I think that's the right call. I think Vasilevsky overall had the best season. He had a couple dips here and there, but nothing like even his bad games were still pretty good. So I think, he picks up another Vezina. It'd be interesting to see if he goes to the awards or not, or if he opts. I'm super interested to see what the NHL does this year, because like last year they gave the players the option of not going to the awards and having these special in-house kind of awards to it, and that's how Kucherov got his. I think was it the Lindsay last year that he won. They presented to him after practice. It was funny, they were talking about, there's a video about it. They were planning on giving it to him, after he skated their practice, because they knew every day it was 2 weeks after the season was over. They still know he's going to be on the ice. It's the one day he chose not to be on the ice, so they had to come up with an excuse to get him in to the arena to present it to him, because they had brought all the players in and everything. But I think Vasilevsky wins that one going away. I think he deserves it. Good seasons for Sorokin. Still kind of surprised Charlie Lindgren isn't in there. I think that's kind of expectations more than anything else, with Washington missing the playoffs. If they had made the playoffs, I think he probably would have been a finalist, because he had a really good year. And so that he'll probably be the hard luck loser in this one. But I like Vassy winning.
You mentioned the Ted Lindsay Award. Kucherov again is a finalist there. It's Macklin Celebrini for San Jose and Connor McDavid for Edmonton. Now, this is voted on by the NHLPA. And as you see, for the most valuable player, it's Nathan McKinnon, not Macklin Celebrini. I think Celebrini's going to get a lot of votes, but I still think it's going to be McDavid.
See, this one, I think Kucherov wins. I think when you hear players talk about their fellow brethren, Kucherov gets so much respect from the other players. They always talk about how he is the toughest player to play against, how good he is on the ice. I could see a little split award here, with McDavid taking the Hart and Kucherov taking the Lindsay, just because he does get such respect from the fellow players. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see McKinnon win it. Either he gets a ton of respect from other players. He plays. It is fun because there's such opposite styles of play. McKinnon is one of these guys who just blows past you, powers past you, to score his goals, whereas Kucherov almost kind of like lulls you to sleep a little bit. He kind of cruises down the ice. He's almost at a standstill, yet he whips that pass across to the back post and it's in the net. So it is two contrasting styles to how they rack up their points. But yeah, both would be deserving winners. I honestly, out of all three, I'd have no problem with any of them. I don't think Celebrini's quite the best player in the league yet, but he's right up there. I think he would have been more so in the MVP battle for the team. But yeah, I could see any of the three winning it. I got no problem with it.
I think if San Jose had made it to the playoffs, Celebrini would be a finalist for the Hart. Just my own opinion on that. Justin, best defensive forward, Anthony Cirelli out there, along with Brock Nelson from Colorado, but the odds-on favorite is Nick Suzuki from the Montreal Canadiens. Right now, minus 600 is Suzuki, and part of the reason there, I know the award is called Best Defensive Forward, but Nick Suzuki had 100 points this season. That means a lot for voters. It just does. That's the way NHL voting has always gone. I don't see any way Suzuki doesn't win this award.
The only thing I argue against Suzuki is he doesn't kill penalties. If you're looking at a best defensive forward, and I know it's kind of nitpicking a little bit, I think he's got to be out there shorthanded. And I understand why he doesn't kill penalties. St. Louis is really regimented on what he wants his top line players doing, and he doesn't want them out there killing penalties if he's got other people who can do it. That being said, if you're going to be in the running for a best defensive forward award, I think you got to kill penalties. And he just doesn't do it. So yeah, he probably wins because, like you said, it's always the best defensive forward who scores a lot of points, right? And the interesting thing in Cirelli's case is that I don't think this was his best defensive year. I don't think he was the best defensive forward on the Lightning. Honestly, I would have probably put Hagel or even Pontus Holmberg above him if you look at some of the numbers as far as expected goals against, shots against, things like that. It wasn't. I think Cirelli should have won it last year, honestly. I think that was one of his best defensive years, but anytime you got Alexander Barkov winning, and this is just a placeholder win because Barkov is hurt, basically. This is the 1 year everybody has a chance, right? It's kind of like when Patrice Bergeron was in the league, right? It's like, if he's hurt this year, we have a chance.
Everyone else.
Exactly, yeah. Because we know next year we're not going to have a chance, right? Barkov's going to be back to doing what he's doing, which is honestly being the best defensive forward in the league. That's what Barkov is. And so, yeah, Suzuki probably wins. And like you said, a lot of it's going to be based on that offense, which, if you believe the best defense is a good offense, then there you go. I think Cirelli would probably finish second. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Brock Nelson had a good year, but he's also, on a good team as well. He's kind of got the Cirelli problem. He's got a lot of good players around him too. So, yeah, I think it's Suzuki, Cirelli, and then
we call this in college the best defensive forward who scores at least 70 points award.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, which we'll probably bring up next with the defensive award. You got to, at some point, you got to split it out. You got to have the best defensive defenseman and the best offensive defenseman. It's the way it is right now. So.
Well, there's one more member of the Lightning organization eligible for an award. That's the Jack Adams Award. It's John Cooper. John Cooper plus 165. Lindy Ruff minus 200 for the Coach of the Year award. And Dan Muse from Pittsburgh plus 5,000. Dan Muse again. If you're on The Price is Right, you're a contestant not appearing on stage. I think it's Lindy Ruff's award. They won the division. They hadn't made the playoffs in forever. It's a great story. He did a hell of a job with that Buffalo team to get them where they are. As good of a job as John Cooper did, it's Lindy Ruff's award.
Yeah, I think Cooper's only chance is kind of a lifetime. The writers, decided it's a lifetime achievement award, and he's been kind of, I don't want to say screwed over in the past, but he's missed out on a couple of years where he probably should have won. And they just decide that, hey, this is the year, you did a really good job with all the injuries. But I think you're right. I think it's Lindy Ruff's award to win or lose. And again, deserved, very deserved, what he did with Buffalo this year. And I kind of kid that, the Jack Adams is the coach that had the best goaltender in the league award, because there's usually a pretty good correlation between good goaltending and winning the Jack Adams. But, Ruff did it really without,
he doesn't have a number one.
Yeah. UPL, they thought was going to be the number one. He had some injury issues. You got Alex Lyon in there. So you had cast of characters really stopping pucks for them this year. So for them to be as successful as they were without a solid number one goaltender really plays to his coaching. So I think Ruff wins it. It's well-deserved. Good for him. And then he gets fired within 2 years because that's the history of the award.
Justin, rapid fire will go through the other awards that do not involve Lightning players. The Norris Trophy for the best all-around defenseman, Rasmus Dahlin for Buffalo, Cale Makar for Colorado, Werenski for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it's Werenski, the heavy favorite, minus 2,000. Yeah. I don't see any way he doesn't win that one.
Yeah, and again, this is kind of the best defenseman who scores 70 points, 60 points, or whatever. I think Werenski wins it. I got no problem with that. I don't think anybody else is really in the conversation this year. I'm sure if you look at the pure defensive numbers, there's some cases we can make for other people. But yeah, I think he wins. Dahlin, whatever. Yeah, he's a good story. I think he's a better fit for the Masterson. But yeah, so we'll see.
The
how it goes.
Calder for the best rookie, Ivan Demidov, trying to become the second straight Canadian to win the award. Matthew Schaefer for the New York Islanders, who is the biggest favorite of any award on the board, minus 6,666. So if you feel like winning $100 and you have a little over 6,000 in cash to spare, you could put it on Matthew Schaefer. And then Beckett Sinecki for the Anaheim Ducks. Is there anything we need to talk about? It's got to be Schaefer.
No. As someone who is currently a proud owner of a Matthew Schaefer rookie card, I really hope it's him. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a defenseman 2 years in a row, but I think it's well deserved. I mean, he's doing stuff that you haven't seen a teenage defenseman do in years. Lane Hudson had a good year last year, but I think Schaefer's even dwarfed what he did on the ice as a defenseman. And I think Beckett Sinecki, I think he's done enough that in many years he probably would be a betting favorite. He had a really good year for Anaheim. And as often as I get his name confused with the wonderful John Cena movie, Ricky Stenicki,
What movie was that?
That was like an Amazon, direct to Amazon. It was actually not bad. It was one of those movies where I appreciated John Cena as an actor. I was like, this kid knows what he's doing. It was an okay movie, but it made me laugh out loud at parts. And the name Ricky Stenicki makes me laugh. And anytime I hear Bennett's name, the same thing, it just brings it to my mind. And then Demidov, he had a good start to the year. I think he kind of faded a little bit as the year went on. He got bumped down a couple lines. But again, I think he did enough that in many years he'd be a solid contender. But he just ran into the defensive juggernaut that is Matthew Schaefer this year. So well deserved for the Islander defenseman.
Two other awards, the Masterson Award. Basically, it's perseverance. Someone who's gone through a tough time. Rasmus Dahlin for the Sabres, Gabriel Landeskog for Colorado, and Jonathan Toews for Winnipeg. You could easily choose any of these three, but I'm going to go with Landeskog for as much time as he missed. He missed almost 3 years, and he came back, and he's still a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're taking experimental surgery to fix a lingering problem like that, and you come back and you play, not only the fact that you play at the NHL, but you produce at a high level after that much time off. I think he's the front runner. I think all three of them are deserving. And Masterson, I think it should be one of those awards where everybody who's nominated gets it, because the struggles that everybody goes through, I think, are usually pretty well documented and well deserved. I mean, Toews going through the long COVID and, just his journey to back on the ice is pretty good as well. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Landeskog wins this one. Well deserved.
And the final award is the Lady Byng Award. I still think when they announce the award, they should play the song, "You're my lady." That's the last time I think anyone wants to hear me sing on this podcast.
Yeah, hopefully that's not a reoccurring bit, but
hey,
okay.
My wife will be more than happy to say I should never sing again. But Justin,
our
in this
podcast,
award,
our rules.
It's Cole Caulfield from Montreal, Anze Kopitar from LA, and Jake Sanderson from Ottawa. I think this is Kopitar. He's retiring. This is his going away present.
Yeah, that was my thoughts exactly. It's a nice little swan song for Kopitar, who has had a great career. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of a hockey player he is. Part of it's that West Coast bias. He plays most of his games after a lot of the media on the East Coast has kind of gone to bed. And so I think he's put together a hell of a career. If he wins it, great. It'd be a great way to give him one final salute, from the league. So yeah, I could see him winning it. The Lady Byng is just one of those awards that you're like, okay, and it's the nicest guy in the NHL. Fantastic. That's exactly what you want to be known for. But
it's the one guy who has 5 penalty minutes all season.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's funny because when a guy like Braden Point gets into a fight, you're like, oh, there goes the Lady Byng for him this year.
Not eligible.
Not eligible anymore. So yeah, it's the guy who doesn't take as many hooking penalties as the other guy and still puts up 60 points or whatever. But yeah, well deserved for Kopitar. He's had a great career and should add one more award to the cabinet.
Justin, we were joined by Jonah Ahrens earlier today from the Sabres Report Podcast. He's going to give us the lowdown on the Montreal Buffalo series from the Buffalo perspective. Here's that interview. We always try to take a look around the NHL and look at the different playoff series that are out there. And today we are joined by Jonah Ahrens of the Sabres Report Podcast. Jonah, thanks for joining us today. It's been a late night for you, bud.
Yeah, I wish I was in a little bit better spirits after Game 3, but no, I'm happy to be here, Jason, and I very much appreciate the invite, and always happy to talk some Sabres hockey.
Jonah, this was quite an eventful year for the Sabres. First of all, they hadn't been into the playoffs since 2011. I want to take us back to training camp. What were your initial thoughts on this team?
You know, myself and my co-hosts and a lot of people in the community. The off season for us, it wasn't good enough. The summer that the Sabres had, the additions they made, while not individually bad, it just didn't really clear the bar that you wanted it to. But when you got to training camp, there were a lot of projections, a lot of analytical models that were more hopeful on the Sabres than the wider audience. Had them around like a 90-point team, and there was potential there. I mean, we know there's always been potential with the Sabres, and for the first time there was maybe something underlying there. So in training camp, that was kind of the hope. Now going into the season, obviously things then quickly spiraled a little bit. They were last place in the conference, and then there was a big change around December. But around training camp, there was the makings of a good team, but definitely not the 109-point Atlantic Division winners that they ended up being.
Early December, this team was in last place in the Atlantic Division. Most teams fire their head coach. You see that Columbus, they fire Rick Bowness, they go on a run. Buffalo fired their general manager, Kevyn Adams. Now, the numbers suggest that could have led to this surge. They had a 40-game surge, 32-6-2. It was the best 40-game surge since 1996. They had a 10-game winning streak, an 8-game winning streak. Is there a correlation between the firing of Adams and this team taking off, or is it just more circumstance?
Yeah, it was the morning of December 9th. They sat 11-14-4, last place in the conference. Were on the verge of possibly being swept on the West Coast. They were in a low spot. At the start of that West Coast swing, the rumors started to percolate about Kevyn Adams possibly being on the way out. And then, they won 2 of those games on the West Coast. Then Kevyn Adams was fired. Or they won 3 of those 3 West Coast games, then Kevyn Adams was fired. And they really never looked back. There was other things at the time that maybe signaled a better stretch of play coming. They had gotten Josh Norris back relatively recently. Alex Lyon had been kind of at the back part of a 3-goalie rotation back then, and he wasn't getting games like he is now. And on top of that, their play had kind of very much improved ever since Rasmus Dahlin had returned from a leave of absence in mid-November. That being said, the firing of Kevyn Adams was the spark. It's there's really no other way to describe it. You can't really make something like that tangible. What a firing really does to a player, to a team, to a system. But it's hard to look at that, and we see it so often in hockey. We see the head coaching bumps. This was a GM bump. It's what it is. Clearly, there was a breath of fresh air. GM Jarmo Kekalainen came in notoriously and basically told all the players, "There's not a single one of you that isn't expendable." I think that lit a fire, and I think overall they really began to play for their jobs a little bit. Once they got the ball rolling, then it just snowballed, and you pile that with some good goaltending and a healthy lineup finally, and you have yourself the most historic stretch in 30 years.
A lot of Tampa fans did not take the Sabres seriously. Coming out of the Olympic break, the Lightning were on their own very hot stretch. I think it was 21-1-1. But there were two games that I think really turned the tide. One, there was a 6-2 win by Buffalo in Tampa in late February. But then there was the notorious 8-7 game that had a little bit of everything from fisticuffs, high-scoring offense. Buffalo erased a late 2-goal deficit. In your mind, was there a turning point in this season to where you're like, hey, this team is really good?
I think the Tampa 8-7 game was okay, this team is at the very, like, this team could do damage in the playoffs. I legitimately don't think anybody believed the Sabres would still come away with the division, maybe until they defeated Tampa 4-2 later in March, or I believe that might have been in April.
April, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. The 8-7 game was really like, okay, this team can go pound for pound with some of the best. I think that's when people started to believe. It was right towards the end of the season. It was post-Olympic break. Everybody in Buffalo knew the magnitude of that matchup. At the time, it was the biggest regular season game in however many years, because if they won that game, they would jump up into first place for the first time. It was the first time they were in first place in the Atlantic Division, not in the month of November in history. Like in the Atlantic Division, which was formed back in 2014. Like it'd been very, very long. They had a great start to that one. Tampa came back, but then the Sabres themselves roared back. It was just it told the story of this team, which a lot of it is perseverance, and I think that's going to be a theme, given where they are in the Montreal series, that this team just has an unbelievable ability to bounce back. It's really a down but never out team. They always find a way. It's somebody new every night. That Tampa game, it was Josh Doan had multiple goals. Jason Zucker had multiple goals. It's very much a next man up. Everybody eats. The Sabres have this phrase. It's everybody ropes, everybody rides, and that's what you saw as the season went on. Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, great seasons, but it's a team that was really built by a foundation of just an all around good lineup.
You had mentioned Rasmus Dahlin, finalist for the Norris Trophy, but for every Batman, you need a Robin, and Bowen Byram has really been a pleasant surprise. They got him in the Casey Middlestat deal a couple of years ago. Tell us about Byram and just how much he means to that Sabres blue line.
When I touched on how Sabres fans thought that the team didn't have a great offseason, part of that was many, and I'll throw myself right in there. They thought maybe Bowen Byram should have been dealt, that they should have looked to move on from him. They did, yes. There was contract things there. He needed a new deal, but also it was a player that it's hard to describe, but you call him Robin, and that really is the best way to describe him. He is, I've always compared him to Matt Dumba, like prime Matt Dumba, where if you looked at that Minnesota Wild team, you had your Spurgeon, your Jonas Brodin. He was the guy that was, he was scoring the pretty goals. He was finishing at a very elite clip. And this year, it's really come together for him, where it doesn't matter who he was playing with. In the past, a big reason for that was he wasn't a defenseman that looked good with anybody but Rasmus Dahlin. Now he looks good with everybody, and can play with everybody. And he's a guy that if he converts those looks that he gets. If Rasmus Dahlin, if Owen Power, and now if even Matthias Samuelsson are creating looks and you're getting the puck to Bowen Byram, there's a good chance he's going to score that for you. And in the playoffs, you have seen that. We discussed on our podcast, the best stretch of hockey in Bowen Byram's career was truly the 2022 playoffs with the Colorado Avalanche. He was fantastic with that team. And here you are seeing it again. He is scoring he's already tied the Buffalo Sabres single playoff goal record by defenseman.
Really?
He's got 4 goals. He needs one. It surprised a lot of us too, but it's true. He needs one more goal, and I believe it was a 4-way tie, and he makes history. He has been fantastic on the offensive side of things. He's carried his own load on terms of defense. He's risen to the occasion. He's a playoff riser, and there's really no complaints about his game. If you were I haven't looked myself. I'm sure with the Sabres Conn Smythe odds, he's either 1, 2, or 3. There's not enough good things that can be said about him.
Well, let's talk about this Montreal series. The series got off to a great start for you guys with the Game 1 victory, but since then you've been outscored 11-3. One of the advanced stats I'm noticing in this series, and it's not a surprise because that's one of the reasons you went out and got Sam Carrick, was for the faceoff circle. The Sabres have been getting killed in the faceoff dot. Montreal winning 60% of the faceoffs through the first 3 games. Is that something that's concerning you moving forward?
You know, I am a guy that with faceoffs, I say they don't matter until they matter. But the ones that have mattered in this series, the Sabres have not won. And the biggest thing you've seen through, at least if you watched Game 3, special teams, they haven't decided this series until last night. The Sabres power play, which did get a goal, still wasn't quite good enough. The Montreal Canadiens power play was going Harlem Globetrotters on the Sabres. And a part of that is the faceoffs. The Sabres, especially on their own power play, have had so much trouble trying to break the puck in, whether it's on a controlled entry, dumping the puck in, whatever. And they've been forced into attempting that process because they can barely win a draw. And on the penalty kill side of things, it's the same thing. And don't get me wrong, at times the faceoffs are so skewed, Montreal is just inevitably gaining possession. It's a big discrepancy in this series. The acquisition of Sam Carrick was an attempt to fix that, but now he's clearly dealing with something, whether it was what he picked up in the regular season or whether it was Arbor Jacki punching him, coming in the dying seconds of last night. He's definitely picked up something now, so he's probably still going to be very limited in that lineup. So it's really on the Sabres centers of Tage Thompson, Josh Norris, and Ryan McLeod to figure that out, and obviously they've struggled.
Lindy Ruff has a ton of experience as a coach. He was the coach of the Sabres back in '99 when they ended up losing to the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals. What adjustments do you think that he will make after the first 3 games?
If you were to go back and go to that Tampa Bay 8-7 game, I believe you'd be looking at the same exact Sabres lineup as has been iced in these playoffs. Lindy Ruff's been very consistent with his lineup all season, especially since December, and for good reason. They had a historic stretch. They did not have to change very much, but this little lull that they're in, it's been a long time. I won't say a long time coming, but it's been building for a little bit. They weren't exactly rolling 3 lines. Their top 3 lines weren't all looking great at the same time against Boston. There was a little give and take. And now in the Montreal series, really only one of their lines, that being the line with Zach Benson, Josh Doan, and Josh Norris, has really helped them. It's probably time for a legitimate adjustment. Ruff believes in his guys. I understand why he's kept things consistent. I understand why he's kept a lot of the chemistry the same. But now you are you're close to the verge, right? It's only a 2-1 series lead. I think there's going to be a lot of overreactions today on the Buffalo side of things, and a lot of people proclaiming Montreal has this series won. It's only a 1-game series.
A lot of hockey left.
Quick. So much hockey left.
Yes,
these teams
tons.
have been very, very tight all season long. It's 1 game, but I think Lindy Ruff now is in the mode where some changes should be considered. The Sabres top line has faced a lot of criticism this series, and for good reason. It was nice to see Tage Thompson get on the board last night, but aside from that, it's not operating, I think, at quite the level you want. And then their third line of Ryan McLeod, Jack Quinn, and Jason Zucker, it's really given them next to nothing in terms of actual production at 5-on-5 these playoffs. Jason Zucker hasn't played many minutes the last 2 games. It's making you think there might be an ailment there. Overall, the top 9, it really needs a jolt. It could use an adjustment. And, that's what I'm looking for, for Lindy Ruff. The power play's been the big one, but it's kind of just late in the game for that. This has been an issue kind of riding with them all season. I don't think simple adjustments are going to be nearly enough to get that back on track. So for me, the consistent lineup that Ruff has really trusted, it could use a different look heading into Game 4.
One of the big changes Lindy Ruff did make was in the Boston series. Took out Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and replaced him with Alex Lyon. I thought Alex Lyon played a brilliant first period, kept the Sabres in the game in Game 3. But going long term, is Pekka Luukkonen your better goaltender?
Long term, I think, maybe just because of the age, you would say yes. It's definitely a conversation for the offseason. The Sabres have a lot of question marks in terms of long-term goaltending. Lyon, he has another year on his deal next year, but he's getting a little up there in age. Luukkonen's still in his mid-20s. Colton Ellis just broke into the league this year and showed some really positive signs. And then they've still got Devin Levi down in the AHL. Long-term, Luukkonen, like I said, yeah, he's probably still your guy. But right now, and we had myself and my brother on our show last night. We had a conversation about should the Sabres look to make a change there. I don't think they're quite there yet. I don't think they're quite at the point when they made the switch from Luukkonen as they are now with Lyon. I think you saw so many signs of life last night with Lyon. He kept that team in it for the first period. Did he play his best hockey the last 2 periods? Maybe not, but it was a shooting gallery. It was a game Montreal very much controlled. I don't think the Sabres should make the change there. He's been he was fantastic for them against Boston, and even in this series, he's still been fairly solid.
For a guy who gave up 5 goals yesterday, the 6th goal was the empty netter by Newhook. I actually thought he played really well. I thought the first period he kept him in it. The Lane Hudson dish to Caulfield was just sick. I mean, my God, what a play. I mean, Hudson made a couple plays in that game yesterday that could have easily have turned to chances back the other way for Buffalo, but he's just so talented. Won the Calder last year. He is just phenomenal. But I want to talk about that offseason real quick, Jonah, before I get your predictions for the rest of the series. Alex Tuch, Western New York native, a Syracuse boy, is a free agent, making $4.5 right now. Does he re-sign, and at what number do the Sabres want him at?
There was a rumor. Well, it wasn't a rumor. I believe it was around the time Kevin Adams got fired that Alex Tuch was, and I believe still is. He's looking for the Adrian Kempe contract, 8 years, $10.6 million. When Adams was fired, they were offering him Tage Thompson money, like 8 years, $7 million. Very much a low ball. It's no surprise Tuch didn't take it. Alex Tuch's been underpaid possibly since the moment he signed his extension in Vegas all those years ago. He's been on one of the best bargain deals in the NHL. I don't think he is budging an inch from his $10.6 million ask, and he shouldn't. I mean, I'm sure you've looked at the free agent market this upcoming summer.
Not many.
He is number one, at least on the forward side of things. It's not even close. Everybody will be gunning for him should he hit the market, and there's really no reason to not hold out. We made this prediction after the Boston series. Maybe we were sipping the recency Kool-Aid because he was so good in that series. I think a team could get crazy and offer him 11, maybe even higher in terms of AAV. He's gonna get paid. I've been very much on the camp of I don't think the Sabres need to sign themselves to that. Zach Benson has emerged in these playoffs, I feel like, on a national scale. Obviously Josh Doan had a great first season with Buffalo. Kulik, who's been out the whole year with after discovering a blood clot back in October. He'll be back next year. Konsta Helenius, who many, including myself, think should get into the lineup during these playoffs. He'll be in the lineup next year, and then Noah Ostlund as well. Like, they have a good crop of youth that I think, not that it will immediately make them better, but they could survive an Alex Tuch departure. Now, there is still a part of me that thinks the Sabres are going to cave in a little bit. There was a report post-trade deadline that the Sabres had caved in their offer a little bit. My guess is they want him at about 7 or 8 years at about $9 million. Like I said, I don't think Tuch is budging from 10.6. I am willing to bet his agent thinks he can get him as high as $11+ million.
It's gone on this long. You would think that if the Sabres were going to offer that contract to get him, they would have done it by now. Do you think there could be a little bit of buyer's remorse from the Jeff Skinner deal, that they're like, hey, we're paying a guy, we have 3 more years left on his buyout, we don't want to be in that situation again as Tuck gets older? Do you think there's a little bit of that concern in the organization?
I'm sure there is from their owner, Terry Pegula. Next season, Jeff Skinner's buyout will cost the team $6 million. It's the highest year it's going to cost them, but yeah, it's next year. It's dipping into their Alex Tuck money. And I think it's very much it's a tale as old as time. The 30 the pending UFA about to turn 30. I believe he actually turned 30 yesterday. Turning 30 forward, do you sign him long term? And you just see very much time after time after time, it does not work out, at least in the long term. The end of the contract almost never looks good. The question is always, hey, can you get 4 to 5 good years and then worry about the bad stuff? And I understand that, and I think there's an argument for it, but I think it's hard. As a Sabres fan, it's hard to not look at the Jeff Skinner contract as, it's an obstacle to you next year. And do you want to go through that again, especially somebody like Alex Tuck, he is a big, fast, and physical player. I mean, those, depending on how you see his play style, those play styles don't exactly age the best. It's a steep
He's got a lot of
decline for
miles on the
players like that.
tires. He's got a lot of miles on those tires.
And you can never really predict it. I think, you can look at like Timo Meier, who was dynamite for San Jose, all of a sudden got to New Jersey, dealt with some injuries, and now he's not what he was in San Jose. I think like Pavel Buchnevich is kind of in the same camp, where like for St. Louis kind of had a very steep decline after being a very, very elite player. And I worry about that with Tuck. I do. It's hard not to worry about that. He's still a fantastic player. Any team that's going to get him is going to be very happy with the player they got next year, the year after, and that's should he leave, obviously. But for me, I'm looking at the history. I'm looking at the fact I think the Sabres have a good crop of talent to replace him with, and I think they can survive this.
Jonah, there's a lot of hockey left in this series. They're only down 2-1. What's your prediction for the rest of the series?
I think it has. I've always thought it's going to go the distance. It's going to go 7 games. I think these teams, I said coming into the series, it's a 50-50 matchup. It can be skewed by things like special teams, power play, as we've seen. But I think these two teams are very much neck and neck. I think it's hard to look at what the Sabres did. I feel like people do forget at times that they won the division, that they were the best team of the Atlantic in the regular season in terms of regular season points. And I feel like way too many people are going to be writing them off after today. And I get it. 2 very dominant games by Montreal. But game 1 was dominant by Buffalo. And I think they're going to bounce back in game 4, and then it's going to become a best of 3. And I think we're going to be in Buffalo for game 7. Now, I do think the Sabres are going to come away with it. Am I biased? Maybe a little. But
you're allowed to be.
I think the Sabres they're going to pick themselves up fairly well. I'm sure the whistles tend to go away in the playoffs as you go further into a series. And there's going to be less opportunity for Montreal to dominate the pace of play on the power play and such. And I think that's where the Sabres are going to be able to get an edge. I think at 5-on-5, I do still think they're the better team. They kind of have to, like I said, they have to pick themselves up. Their defense have been fairly mitigated in this series, and that's the core of their offense. They run it through the blue line. So as soon as they get back to that, I think they're going to be back in this. Sabres in 7. That's my prediction.
My pre-series prediction was Buffalo in 6. My co-host said Montreal in 6. I still look at the fact that Montreal is getting so much production from Zach Bolduc, Alex Newhook, Kirby Dach. At what point does that dry up? These are 3rd and 4th line guys that they are getting big time production. Their top line, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, they're not producing a whole lot at even strength. It's all on the power play. Cole Caulfield got just his 2nd goal of the playoffs. and it was pretty much because Lane Hudson decided to dance throughout the entire Buffalo defense. I think that if Buffalo can find a way to stay out of the penalty box, I think this is a really tough series, like you said, and I still think this is going to go 6, maybe 7 games. So, Jonah, tell us about the Sabre Report Podcast.
The Sabre Report Podcast was a show birthed out of love by myself and my co-host, Christian Kowalski. And along the way, we added my brother, JP Ahrens. The Sabre Report was something we started back in 2020. This'll get you. It was a few weeks after Taylor Hall had signed with the Sabres. We've been fans our whole lives, but it was we always loved being a part of the Sabres community, and we wanted a voice in that. And that's when we started the Sabre. It was actually called at the time the Royal Report. Soon we changed it to the Sabre Report. And over time, as the Sabres got more involved with their post-Eichel rebuild, our voices it became louder. More people started following us. We started engaging with more people. And that kind of culminated back in September of 2022 with the beginning of our podcast. And ever since then, it's been a weekly show that, we just talk about the team. I like to think it's not very, it's 3 diehard fans having a fun conversation, with good, I like to think we have good analysis and good takes. Some people disagree. If you read our YouTube comments, people disagree a lot. But we have an incredible passion for the team. We still love them. No matter what happens in this series, we will be there talking about them. We love our fans. We love talking to them, and we love the hockey team. We always will.
Jonah, I could say I've caught a number of your podcasts. You guys do an excellent job of breaking down the Sabres. For those out there, you can catch them on any podcast platform, their YouTube channel. I caught the episode today on Apple. There's also on Spotify. We're going to put in our show notes everywhere that you can get the Sabre Report podcast. Jonah, first of all, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate the time, and best of luck to your Sabres.
Thanks. I was, I have to say this one thing. I was very much hoping, and I feel like we were very much robbed of a Buffalo Sabres Tampa Bay Lightning series. After what happened in the regular season, I'm very upset we did not get in the playoffs. I wish this was under the circumstances of a series preview, but I'm happy to hop on, talk anyways, discuss. It was very fun, and I appreciate the invite.
Anytime, Jonah. Hope to have you on again. We'd like to thank Jonah Ahrens from the Sabres Report Podcast for joining us. Hope you got a little bit of insight on those Buffalo Sabres. I know everyone, that's your favorite team after that 8-7 game earlier in March. Justin, tell us what's going on over at Raw Charge.
Kind of still wrapping up the season a little bit. We'll be talking about some of the players. We did have a nice article on Nikita Kucherov over the weekend, just talking about his Hart Trophy nomination. And those wonderful trade rumors that everybody likes to stir up this time of year. Probably do something on Cirelli this year as well, or Cirelli's year as well coming up this week. But stop by. We'll have the daily links post and just kind of go from there if there's any news that comes out.
Our next podcast is going to drop on Sunday. Make sure to stay tuned to Raw Charge, www.rawcharge.com. You can get the latest and greatest from Justin and his team over there. For Justin, I'm Jason Linkus. Thanks for joining us today, and go Bolts.
Go Bolts.
Thank you for listening to Backchecking the Bolts. We are free and available on all platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, and Deezer. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. You can follow Justin on Blue Sky at rawcharge.com. You can follow the show on X at Tampa_Bolts_pod and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Backchecking the Bolts. If you're interested in advertising on the show or partnering with us, you can find more information in the show notes or email Jason at backcheckingthebolts@yahoo.com.